Good morning and welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. If you are new to SMUUCh and want to know more about our church, please fill out our Get in Touch form using the link below in the video description. And if you're interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism, please join our Just the Basics class on June 13th. And now a few announcements. Good morning, I'm Reverend Rose, the minister here at SMUUCh. It is a joy to see you and an honor to be broadcast into your homes. Today, after the service, is our annual meeting, which is when we conduct the official business of the church, finalize the budget, vote on our upcoming board slate, and any other proposed changes. We do hope that you will attend. You can find the link in your weekly email. It will begin at noon promptly today, about half an hour after the service closes. In honor of the governance of our church, I join you today from our boardroom, which hasn't seen much use this year, but will again. Secondly, please mark your calendars for June 5th for our all-church picnic. Rain check day is June 12th. It will be in the evening time. You will be required to wear a mask and bring your own everything, food, water, and blanket. And chair. If you'd like to sign up for the talent show, please do so in the weekly email. The link was not working, but it is now working. So if you tried before, try again. And you do not have to sign up for the picnic itself, just come. Lastly, I am pleased to announce that the infamous Hogwarts School of Magic and Fun is open for applications. Tell your friends. We will be having a hybrid Hogwarts this year. It will be July 21st through 24th. Wednesday through Thursday will be online, and Friday night and Saturday in person outside at the church, field day style, which I think will make Quidditch even more fun. Because together we are better. Together we are a courageous church, a courageous nation, a courageous globe. Today, our mantras will be centered around our church's mission, which is to invite, inspire, and involve. We will have 3 meditations today, and so I'll invite you to start right now by closing your eyes and centering in, remembering that your only task for this hour is to be present, be peaceful, foster kindness and compassion for others, and build the capacity for growth in yourself. Let us put our feet flat on the floor, find some length in your spine, and take a few deep breaths. I will read us a poem to deepen our understanding of what it means to be inviting. This is a poem by Rumi, which you can listen to as you breathe peacefully. This being human is a guest house, each morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And now we will do our mantra. You can either speak aloud after me or say it in your head. I will invite. I will invite. I will invite. You may open your eyes, and now please join us for our opening hymn.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of the evening. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of the evening. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of the evening. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan. Whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of the evening. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of the evening. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, catch again, lover of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
It's chalice lighting time!
All you need is a candle, a spark, and some sort of special chalice.
And some parental supervision.
Please join me as we light our chalice and affirm that love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another. Hi kids, I'm going to show you in a second about how to keep a tidy room. But before that, because so many people have been feeling anxious recently, maybe you, maybe some of your friends or family members, I wanted to show you someone else who feels anxious and what we did. This is Marmalade, and Marmalade is very anxious and very needy, and so we got him this Thunder shirt, which is basically like a hug machine. So anytime that you feel anxious, you can always just ask for a hug or go get under a nice warm blanket, and hopefully you can have just as nice of someone in your life as I am here to my pets. Okay, enough of Marmalade. Now let's talk about this messy entryway table that we are going to tidy. When we are cleaning our spaces, we don't do it just because it makes everything clean or to make our parents happy. We also do it because it makes the space more peaceful and more enjoyable to be in. So when you see this table, it's a little bit chaotic. This is the first table that you see when you come into my home, and it feels a little bit chaotic and confusing, doesn't it? So today I want to teach you about some of the tidying up tips from a woman named Marie Kondo, who does a lot of work around how to keep your own space clean and neat and feeling simple and spiritually well. So her first tip is to take things that are like other things and put them together. So do you see anything on this table that looks like it goes together? I'll start. I think that these 3 animal figurines belong together, right here like this. Her second tip is that when there's something that you don't know whether or not you want to throw it away, you take it and you hold it between your hands and you ask yourself, does this spark joy? And as I think about this piece of artwork that my neighbor did, it definitely sparks joy. So now I will go put it in its own home. Everything should have its own home in your room with other pieces of art just like it. Next, we find these pencils. Our tidying guru, Marie Kondo, tells us that small objects need to go with other small objects out of the way. Now, if there's an object that you use a lot, like these pencils, they should be within reach. So I'm going to put these in my special pencil cups that I keep on the top of my desk. Next, we come to this amazing hot chocolate stirring device. Now, we need to make sure that this goes with something like it that is about the same size. You're supposed to put things that are the same size with other things of their size. So I'm going to put this in the kitchen with other wooden kitchen objects. Lastly, I have this plant here. Now, if I think about, do I want to throw this plant out or not? This plant definitely sparks joy. So I'm going to put this into a little pot and put it with my other plants. Thanks for watching, kids. See you next week. This is the time in our service where we expand the caring love of our congregation, where we draw to heart and mind those in our midst who are suffering and those who feel the sweet relief of their burdens easing. Today, as we prepare for our annual meeting, we think of everyone who has devoted themselves to their religious communities in service. How lofty our wishes are for our churches, and how often slow and sticky the work of governance and leadership is. We hold in our hearts this difficulty of being human, the holy struggles that religious communities go through in coming to fulfill their missions, and we offer our deepest and sincerest gratitude to those who serve, and a great witness to those whose leadership is often not acknowledged for years and sometimes never. We give our love to those untangling themselves from relationships that no longer serve them. We grieve for the loss of energy and time that chronic illness takes on the body and mind. And our hearts go out to all who are struggling to make ends meet especially this year. We extend our gratitude to people who make caring for children their primary spiritual practice, and we join in wonder with all who are bravely facing their final days. And as always, we rejoice over the exquisite beauty in this world, as small or life-changing as each piece of beauty might be. And now please comment in the comment section of the live chat your joy or sorrow. Remember, this moment of sharing happens online and remains public for all viewers joining us today. Our reading today comes from a letter which all of the ministers in the Unitarian Universalist Association received from the president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. In this reading, she uses the word liminal, which means when we are in between something, phases of life, anytime we're in transition. If you think of the word liminal with its two tall L's on either end, you can imagine a string strung between them and all that hangs in the balance. She says, "This is a promising yet challenging time, a liminal time, where we begin to imagine beyond the pandemic, but are not there yet. You cannot resolve liminality by planning your way through it. Instead, guide your leaders through cycles of observation, experimentation, adjustment, and iteration. The liminal time clamors for creativity and innovation, yet many of us arrive exhausted, grieving, and traumatized, with the well of creativity nearly dry. Perhaps," she says, "embracing simplicity can guide us to the creativity and nurturing we most need." Imagine a young woman. She is very slight, with a calming demeanor and a pleasant voice, with straight black hair, walking through your home with you, a Japanese translator at her side who listens politely to her and then calmly tells you that you are to take every single item out of your closets and make huge piles throughout your house. Piles of clothes, all your books, kids' toys, makeup, tools, everything out of the drawers and into the middle of the room. Her name is Marie Kondo, and you may know her from her Netflix hit show, Tidying Up. Although this show seems like fairly straightforward how-to stuff, what she actually is doing is helping the participants in the show to bring spiritual practices into their lives. For example, before the big tidy begins, she sits everyone down and they thank the home. In this way, although she's ostensibly just helping people put objects in order and declutter, she's actually helping them make choices through a spiritual part of themselves. One way that she does this, and her most famous tactic, is this. Imagine that you had a pile of all your clothing in your living room that reached chest high. You are tasked with getting rid of it. It's very overwhelming. Why? Because we might use a lot of this again one day. But she says, rather than make choices about what to keep and what to throw away based on the utility of the object, she instructs you to lift a single piece of clothing to your chest, hold it lightly between your hands, and ask yourself, does this spark joy? If the answer is yes, keep it. If the answer is no, then you think about your pleasant memories with the object, and then from your heart, you thank it, and then put it in the donate pile. There's something here, something really deep about how and why we value certain things. We so often put value on being useful, productive, or working. But it's very liberating to not think about the usefulness of an object and instead prioritize whether or not it sparks joy. Making your decisions according not to how useful something is, but how deeply it connects to your spirit. We are not accustomed to this type of decision making. No, indeed, we are practical people who know something's worth by how productive it is. You know when you learn the same truth over and over again? Well, for me, the lesson I must learn again and again, and probably will have to study throughout my whole lifetime, is that my worth is not tied up with what I can produce. This is a trap that so many of us fall into over and over, and a trap that I'm willing to bet you do too, because we have a good Protestant work ethic. And we are taught that the core of our identity is how we work, what we do, and how well we serve. This is a strong current that runs through our society, with roots that trace back hundreds of years to when a theology was born from a man named John Calvin, who preached that hard work, thrift, and efficiency in one's worldly callings were signs of an individual's election or eternal salvation. Meaning that if you work hard, you go to heaven. Oh, this runs deep within us. The core of many of our identities being tied up in how productive we are, how much we serve, and how much we do. This is so deep in us that even as I meditated on this church's mission of inviting, inspiring, and involving, I made two startling realizations. The first one is that even as I wrote the mantras for this service, I focused the meditations purely on how you and I can be the inviter, how we can inspire people, how we can support other people to be involved, how we can be helpful and good. Of course, there's nothing wrong with saying that service is our prayer or noticing that when we give, we receive. But the second startling realization that I had this week is that almost everyone I speak to has had significant struggles with their mental health in the last year. Many people I know are feeling self-hateful about where they're at, super judgy towards themselves, really focused on the space between what we think we ought to be like and what we actually are, preoccupied with that space between what we could be and what we are, obsessing over that space between how productive we ought to be and how productive we actually aren't. And thus, I feel compelled to offer a thought that hopefully will release us from some of these confusing preoccupations and extra pressure. I want to remind us that during times of great transition and trauma and grief, like we've been through, we often retreat to being the helper, finding hope in the doing, the utility, when perhaps it is time to set down how useful we can be and instead make choices about what sparks joy in us. So let us quickly rethink those mantras, and I'll ask you to close your eyes and draw to mind a time when you felt invited. A time when you were just welcomed in and embraced for who you are, enjoyed and delighted in, made comfortable and safe in a home or at church or in someone's creative office. What was it about that space that made you feel so comfortable? I'm willing to bet that it was not just that you could be useful to those people, but also that you were a joy to them. And then imagine a time when you were inspired, where you were alive and bright in your mind, excited just to think or study or create. That time slipped away. What was it about the space that made you inspired? I'm willing to bet that there was something very human about that setting, something where you had the space to enjoy and experience freely without fear of messing up or doing it wrong or not doing enough. And then lastly, keeping your eyes closed, imagine a time when you felt involved in a community, when you felt like you were part of something bigger than yourself, when you had both feet in and were grounded and peaceful in your commitments. What was it about this space that made you feel so involved? I'm willing to bet that there was something very clear and kind about the people around you that allowed you to explore and play in the community and have safety in relationships. You may open your eyes. Like Marie Kondo teaches us, I think there's something that we need to clear away. Some clutter that we need to pack up and throw out. Some grime that we need to wipe away so that we can see clearly the real depth of our own value, which is not wrapped up in anything other than you being your wonderful self. Indeed, there has long been a rift between the Protestant work ethic of John Calvin and Unitarian Universalism. Stay with me for a moment while I give you a little bit of church history. You see, it was John Calvin himself who preached that our entry into heaven depends on how hard we work. However, the Universalists at that time believed something very different, that each of us has an inherent worth and dignity, that we are all going to heaven no matter what, that it is simply by virtue of your existence that you are worthy, that there is a love big enough for you as well, that you, just as you are enough, have enough, and do enough. That there is no clamoring to be seen as good or worthy, that you spark joy and therefore should be kept, that you deserve peace and rest and wellness and order and simplicity. In fact, these two theologies were so opposed, and I'll give you a little fun UU history side bit here, that this happened. Calvin liked to write these pamphlets that he would circulate with his beliefs written in them, and he sent one to one of our own, Michael Servetus, who was a Unitarian. And when Michael Servetus received them, he wrote back to Calvin and said, "I have received your pamphlet and I personally vomited on every page." Now, what would it look like if we were that committed to our humanity? If we were that deeply, deeply committed to the inherent worth and dignity, that it didn't matter what our job had been, or if we dropped out, or if there were things we never did, or if we had to take a mental health break, or if we got burned out, or if we were the one who raised the children, or did something like be a monk, which has zero monetary value, that it didn't matter if we went to prison or were an addict. You see, I think these beliefs that we hold about our productivity being our worth go very, very deep and create cycles of shame and loss of identity for many, many people, and even create rifts in humanity, even create class issues. They even inspire people to hold the very dangerous belief that your worth is your worth. On that note, to close, I'd like to tell you a story about a man I saw speak at the Kansas State House for the Poor People's Campaign. He was one speaker in a long line of people who had had significant financial struggles. Speaking in this lineup took a lot of bravery, because to talk about going through a struggle like that in our society kind of proves that, you didn't work hard enough and thus might not get to heaven, which people do really believe about unhoused folks or people who struggle in poverty. And as I watched, I knew that every single one of the speakers was battling perceptions and judgments on them. And so you can imagine how delighted I was, and we all were, when this man got up to the podium and he just cleared away all those cluttering thoughts, all that stuff about people's worth being tied up in their utility. He stood tall and simply said, "I have dignity. I have dignity. I have dignity." It was like he was drawing a line around himself, saying, "As for me and my house, we have an inherent worth and dignity that isn't even touched by how successful we've been." But he was drawing a circle beyond himself as well, reminding everyone there that you have a dignity, that you have a dignity, that you have a dignity, that you spark joy, and that you deserve to experience a heaven on earth where you feel inspired, invited, and involved, where you can actually rest and know that you are precious and wanted and valuable no matter what you do, no matter how much you work, no matter how you've succeeded. Because the simplest thing of all is that your health and wellness, mental, physical, and spiritual, ought to be a huge guiding force in your decision making. You must think of your wellness as you make choices about your career. You must think of your wellness in your decisions that you make about your family. I understand that your brain may be finding all sorts of reasons why you need to continue grinding. Your thoughts might be in overtime right now, explaining why if you let go for just a second, everything will crumble. So start gently by saying no to little things that you can say no to. Putting your rest and artwork and your family first in small ways, and really taking into consideration your mental health. Really taking into consideration your mental health and what it will take from you to recover from this time of isolation, grief, and trauma, and doing that. Remembering that you are not a machine, so you don't need to grind. That the soft animal of your body loves what it loves. That what sparks joy, and that those sparks will light our way through any dark night. Lucille Clifton said, "Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? Won't you celebrate what you have shaped into a kind of life? Lift up all that you have been through, all the ashes and stages your weary soul has weathered, and still come out sparkly and ready for more." Let us remember that this being human is a guest house, and that we can keep it tidy. That we can invite those fears of not being enough in when they come a-knocking at the door. That we can invite those cluttered thoughts to join us, and we can entertain them with a smile. But in the end, we need to be comfortable in our own home. So we will politely yawn and say it's getting late, say, "I think it's time for everyone to head out." And they'll put their jackets on and linger by the door. And then you'll remember what Marie Kondo said about how to get rid of things that you no longer need, how to let go of things that have been useful to you, such as your fear, your worry, your tension, your regret, for they have protected you and kept you safe. So you will say from your heart to those pesky guests, thank you for everything you've done. And then they'll finally leave, and then you can be in your own house, this body and soul and mind in which you live, your own clean and beautiful home full of things that spark joy. And now let us do our second meditation of the day about inspiration. Putting your feet flat on the floor once more, closing your eyes. I'll have you draw your attention to a place in your own body that feels peaceful and painless. Maybe this is a piece of your body in your hands. Maybe it's on your skin. But I'll just invite you to take a minute to experience that gentle, easy part of your embodiment. Taking deep breaths into that, directed to that part of your body. Letting the corners of your lips turn up. Just enjoy this moment that you have. As you breathe in, breathing in love. As you breathe out, letting some of your stress, worry, resentment, fear, impatience, regrets, just letting it go. If you can identify something that you'd like to let go of, this would be a good moment to let it go. Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you. The things that you desire are seeking you in the same way that you are seeking them. That's why they appear in your imagination. Take a minute to remember that you inspire people with your stories, your passion, your art, your humor, your presence, your love. And then I'll have you lastly draw to mind someone who you know needs a little bit of inspiration. Maybe someone at church, maybe someone in your family, maybe someone who you have seen in a fleeting moment. And we'll just do a little bit of loving kindness to ground ourselves in compassion and in our heart space. So I invite you to imagine their face, imagine their smile. If you knew them as a child, imagine their child self. And then send them the inspiration that you hope for yourself. Send them that spark, that engagement, that excitement, that meaning, that energy. And then in closing, we'll do our second mantra. So please repeat after me in your mind or out loud. I will inspire. I will inspire. I will inspire. You may open your eyes. The work of the church depends on us. In the context of emerging from the pandemic and moving forward into the world we've dreamed of, SMUUCh can create and foster a space for connection and healing. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. These we carry with us in our hearts until we are together again.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being and all. Keep with the web of creation your row. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend. Praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Right in my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my glory with all who will share. Work towards a planet transformed by our care.
And now, as we move forward into our annual meeting in about half an hour, and as we go forward into the next year of this community's life, let us recommit ourselves to showing up for our spiritual selves and the spiritual selves of others. We will close with our final mantra. So once again, shut your eyes, check in one last time, seeing how you feel after devoting an hour to breathing, listening, singing, and repeat after me. I will involve. I will involve. I will involve. This week, I invite you to really consider, how do you invite, inspire, and involve yourself and everyone around you? Go in peace. Blessed be. See you in half an hour.